Good evening and welcome to On the Record, a debate-style television talk show where Bahamians will find the balanced, true and open debate they've been looking for. It's now 113 days since Dr. Hubert Minnis won the election, becoming only the fourth prime minister in an independent Bahamas. The victory would give his FNM party an unprecedented landslide victory. The country now eagerly awaits to see what the Minnis administration will bring over the next 5 years, but it is always customary to check up on new governments after 100 days. Tonight, we continue our review of the Minnis administration after its 100-day mark to see just what they have done, what they have plans to do, and what, in the opinion of our guests, they should be doing with the struggling economy, crime, corruption, BPL, NIB, the public service, etc. In last week's episode, we conducted our initial debate on the first 100 days of the Minnis administration with the opposition's chairman and a minister of the FNM government. Tonight, we broaden that discussion. Our topic is, first 100, the assessment. Our guests are John Pinder, he's the Bahamas Public Services Union president, also a politician. We also have Shanique Miller, a journalist and talk show host, and Brian McCartney, an attorney and leader of the Democratic National Alliance. It's all on the record. I'm your host, Jerome Sawyer. Our discussion begins on the other side of this break.
On the Record is brought to you by Alive, the nation's newest and best LTE network.
Good to be alive. Light it up. No one does summer like we do. It's just a way of life. Light it up.
Time is now. We own summer. We are alive.
What are you doing?
Calling the bank to order more checks.
Go to epbahamas.com and order your checks from Executive Printers.
Executive Printers. We're the authority in business and personal check printing in the Bahamas. Come in and see one of our specialists or visit us online at epbahamas.com to design and order your checks today.
Yep. I got you.
I really appreciate you helping us out.
No problem, buddy.
Yeah, but thanks for helping us with.
Serious.
What happened, babe? What you mean?
Our news weekend has moved to 7:30.
Welcome back to On the Record. Our topic tonight, the first 100, the assessment. Our guests, John Pinder, BPSU president, Shanique Miller, talk show host, and Brian McCartney, leader of the DNA. Thank you so very much for coming on the show tonight. We appreciate you being here. Shanique, welcome back.
Thank you very much. A pleasure to be here.
Gentlemen, welcome.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
I just want to say, you know, looking at this group, people must be thinking, what in the world are they thinking to bring a grouping like this together? But certainly, you know, after last week's show, we wanted to continue the discussion on the first 100 days. As I said in the introduction, it really is a benchmark of governments to see where they are in terms of, you know, getting their feet wet. I call it the honeymooning period or whatever you want to call it. But certainly it is a significant time in the life of any government, getting into office and getting settled within those first 100 days. I'm going to come out, first of all, by talking about that and getting a sense from you of where people are with this milestone of governance. Brian McCartney, I'm going to start with you. People have not, you know, people have not seen you or heard from you in
100 days.
You said it, I didn't.
From the 10th day.
Yeah, but really, you know, Brian.
They didn't hear from me on that day either. That was a whole different story.
Well, we can come back to that. Yeah, we can come back. We can come back. But certainly, in your assessment as now leader, continued leader of the DNA, what has been your assessment of the government's time in office these first 100 days?
Well, let me say, from the country's point of view, I think most persons want this government to do well. We've had a bad run the last 5 years, and we have no other choice but to get it right this time. The FNM has won overwhelmingly in the elections, and you know, I think they've started some things, but people now are looking for certain things to happen. Crime is still out of control, and the economy in particular. And I think they want to see some movement in that regard. It is still early days, and we recognize that. But the fact of the matter is, Bahamian people have been going through this crime problem for years, and the economy has been terrible from 2008. So I think the Bahamian people want to see some movement in that regard, notwithstanding the fact that it's still early days, but it's time to get some things moving now.
John Pinder, in your assessment, do you think people are still okay with giving government a pass at this point, that getting to know settling in period, or do you think people are sort of coming to the end and wanting to see even more action or wanting to see more things happening?
Well, from what I said, it's mixed emotions. Some persons want things to happen instantly. Others are waiting to see what will happen in about 6 months. I believe the government was smart in the FNM party was smart in putting their manifesto together. They didn't set any target dates, like what I will do in 100 days or what I'll do in 6 months.
Because I think even under the Christie administration, he had sort of a 100-day agenda that came to bite him immediately.
That's right. And so the FNM, I believe, is, I won't say on a honeymoon, but I realize they're still doing an audit, so to speak, an assessment of what is in place and how can we move forward to ensure that we are able to meet our agenda. I think people think they're moving a little bit too slow. Certainly, like Brian mentioned, the economy is in a mess. People are still hoping that jobs will be created more quickly. The crime situation is still out of control. You can't say that the government has the answers for it. I believe it's going to take a whole country's effort. All the citizens have to get involved in trying to see how we can get these guns out of the hands of the young men who really terrorizing the country. The education system appears to be a little better than last term, getting the schools prepared for back to school based on what I'm hearing UT president is saying. There's still some teacher shortage, but they have kind of met the demands of the school curriculum and being able to get teachers out there. The health system, persons are still waiting to see what happens in regard to this national health plan, how the government will, how that will unfold in the best interest of the Bahamian people. They have done one or two things in that area also. So while the public, the general public, is expecting them to move more quickly, I think they're doing some things. And I believe it's important for them to do an assessment before they really come out there and see what they can accomplish.
Shanique Miller, 5 days a week, you're on Guardian Radio, talking to folks, talking to members of the public on varying topics. But what do you get is the temperature of the public right now, particularly the voting public and the young people who would have overwhelmingly supported the FNM in the election?
I get the impression, much like the two gentlemen, that, you know, the honeymoon, I think that honeymoon phase is over. However, it's like when you come to realize, okay, I'm in a relationship with this guy now, I kind of understand who he is, still in love, willing to give him an opportunity to prove himself more. People are saying that 100-day mark for them is of no issue because they're very, very happy and excited about the fact that Here's an administration that came in doing something completely different than any other administration, talking about corruption and holding people accountable and kind of going and saying, listen, you may have misbehaved or perhaps you did. Well, you're going to be called into account to do that. They love that. They love seeing that. They feel as though it's a move in the right direction, particularly when there are instances or cases, situations to answer to. People are still very concerned, though, about crime, about the economy, about opportunities, about the economy being diversified, that they too can have their opportunity to be able to realize their own interpretation of the Bahamian dream. And so while they are saying, okay, wonderful, you know, good, we like what we're seeing, go right ahead, Dr. Minnis and your crew, we still want to see some more. We want to see exactly what else you're going to do, but they're willing to kind of just sort of hold back of just pouncing too quickly and saying, continue, let's just see where you take the ship.
Definitely. I mean, and it's so interesting that all of these areas that you would have spoken to, we have in our cadre of topics to talk about tonight. We're going to lead off, though, with the economy. Right after the elections, Moody's hit us with a threat of a credit downgrade. Somehow we seem to have dodged the bullet, as the newspaper headlines would have reported this week. There was no downgrade. Do you think the FNM can take full credit for that and saying, you know, we were able to stave off this further downgrade because of the plans that we have put in place?
I think the FNM as a party, knowing what the situation was financially, outlined and was honest with the Bahamian people with the situation financially. And I think they let Moody's know that at the end of the day, this is what we need to do. Now, they have done some cuts, they've done some reductions as to how they're going to try and deal with the financial situation, but that doesn't take us out of the woods. We need to show, this country needs to show the rating agencies that we could get people back to work, that we can reduce our debt that's outstanding. And that is where I think the FNM must now place emphasis on. We dodged a bullet not being downgraded. However, we were given a negative status. So we shouldn't take that lightly. And I believe, you know, I honestly believe that Peter Turnquest and crew from the Ministry of Finance will do what is necessary to keep us moving towards a better grade internationally. So I would give them the benefit of the doubt of getting this economy and the ratings back up.
Minister Turnquest even came under criticism and scrutiny for saying the cupboards are bare, the state of the economy is much worse than we thought. People thought he gave too much information. He said too much. Maybe he should have held back. What has been the sort of the consensus out there, or people upon hearing that and now seeing what has played out?
I think people were very happy for his being very candid, because too often things have sort of been shrouded. And so when you see, for example, the Moody's negative rating, and you're wondering how, why is this continuing to kind of fall in this trend? And so when they came out initially, Turnquest and his crew, and said, listen, here is the real state of affairs. They didn't pretty it up, they just presented it to people. So this negative rating was not a total surprise to anyone. I think they are taking credit for the fact that there wasn't a downgrade, and perhaps they should, because they have made some very, very severe, in the eyes of many, moves that were quite necessary, that people are kind of agreeing and saying, listen, if it needs to be done, let it be done. You are shaving the public service, you are cutting this and cutting the next thing. I even put to people, well, wait a minute though, Bahamians are losing their jobs here. People are saying, but listen though, if it presented or presents a burden on the public service and and by extension the public purse, unnecessarily so, then it needed to be done. And so I think people are along for the ride as far as the moves and the decisions that the Ministry of Finance under Peter Turnquest finds itself having to make right now, and the decisions that they have to make.
We are at the point of our first break, but you mentioned something that I want John Pinder to really speak to, and this issue of what is happening with the public service, and I really want to hear from you based on the response response of your members and where they must be, or where they must be and how they must be feeling when you're talking about austerity measures. So stay with us. We are at the point of our first break in the show. On the Record, we'll be back right after this.
On the Record is sponsored by BAF Financial. BAF for life.
I'm free to live my life, yeah. Free to be me, yeah. The way I wanna be. Doing the things that I wanna do.
Yes, I'm living my life. Hey, BAF for life. Yes, I'm living my life. Hey, BAF for life.
For life, BAF has got you covered.
Upgrade your home today with hurricane-resistant doors and windows from Ultimate Door and Window, one of the top manufacturers in the country. We also specialize in hurricane shutters, storefronts, frameless shower doors, glass, and mirrors. We're the authorized dealers of Phantom screens in the Bahamas. UDW has all your needs for this hurricane season. So be prepared and check them out today on Shirley Street, behind the Auto Mall, or call them now at 356-4945.
It's hot and humid outside. Aveeno Positively Radiance Daily Cleansing Pads is the product for you. Remove all that oil and dirt and makeup from your skin. If you're a bride or the friend of a bride, enter to win to have your wedding shower sponsored by Aveeno. $1,500 in gifts and prizes. Aveeno, enter to win.
Johnson & Johnson products distributed by Lowe's Wholesale Drug Agencies Limited.
Welcome back to On the Record. Tonight we are discussing the first 100, the assessment, looking now at the government's record, 100 days in office, a little past that, 113 to be exact. John Pinder, within the public service, there's a lot going on. You have people who are being sent home by all means. Contracts who have ended, those who have passed retirement age, who may have been brought back, etc. A lot going on, causing some rumblings. I'm sure people within the public service are feeling a little uneasy from time to time as to what their future will be, particularly when you have the government talking about austerity measures. I mean, it is no secret that the public service is overstaffed and a tremendous burden on the public purse, on the treasury, on the Bahamian economy. What kind of feedback are you getting from your members?
Well, let me say this. First of all, I really appreciated the statements made by the Prime Minister when he was swearing in his ministers and sending a stern warning to permanent secretaries and heads of department who allow ministers of the government to let them hire persons on delegated powers to give this impression that the public service is overstaffed. It's not necessarily overstaffed. There are a lot of persons in the public service who aren't pulling their weight or who don't really have clear job descriptions. What I think the government is doing now is doing an audit of the human resource in terms of they want to ensure that everybody on the payroll, first of all, right? Persons who are on the payroll are in fact in the workplace on the job.
I always ask the question, why wasn't this happening before? How could you have a public service where people aren't verified, people are working, or dead people receiving salaries?
Yeah, because, two things this Prime Minister did well. First of all, he appointed an accountant, a CPA, to be the Minister of Finance, somebody who knows about figures and business rather than an attorney, Not Eddie Brown, who would have been the Minister of Finance as an attorney.
Let the money man run the money.
Let people understand business. Actually, so the country is taking a business approach now. Not that they're going to try to make a profit.
That's different.
But they just want to make sure there's transparency and accountable for everything, which is a step in the right direction. So those persons who would have retired and find themselves, they ain't finished paying their mortgage yet, or still get kids in university, but they come back big in the government. Those are tough positions now, because a small man doesn't even have the air of the minister or the permanent secretary in this regard.
But that's not the country's
These-
problem. If you have retired and you still have a mortgage and all these other things, that's not the country's problem.
So they don't just bring you back, but they bring you back with a salary better than when you retire.
I need to retire.
So the members in the public service,
your pension and all,
that's
all
right.
this gratuity. And
So the members in the public service are glad that this government is doing something good. It gives them the chance to have open mobility, because too often they keep bringing these permanent secretaries who retire back, give them contracts, so the undersecretaries or the deputy permanent secretaries don't have the opportunity to advance as quickly as they should. And so now that they've taken the steps to move these people away, persons are now being promoted, and so the bottom now starts to come up. So for the most part, civil servants are happy that some persons are moving off the scene, especially when you've been catching up with some of these fellows for so long. And they go and usually pray, so I retire. Well, you look right back that Monday morning in some consultancy capacity.
The bottom line is it's politics. It was politics previously in terms of the public service, as to who's hired, who consultants come in, who would move up, and so on and so forth. I think that is changing a bit, which is good. But in addition to what this government is doing, they must look at those general orders, and they must change those general orders. I had a situation when I was a minister, a lady, I fired her from immigration, and she ended up going to the passport office. And she was fired for something, well, or removed for something quite serious. But they did not get rid of her. And I ended up having to go to her to deal with my passport.
Yeah.
No, so my point is the public service ought to be run like a business, like a professional organization, and the general orders prohibits that. It causes.
But now, that's why from 2005 we signed an industrial agreement, which removes most of the old chaotic way of doing business under general orders. The problem is those permanent secretaries, for the most part, didn't want an industrial agreement between the union and the government, because they wanted to be able to abuse persons by using general orders, that old chaotic document. And so if you didn't follow the procedures, when you terminated or tried to terminate somebody, you might have lost the case. So the permanent secretary looked at it and said, you know, the minister didn't follow procedure here, so we can't allow him to get himself in any trouble. Rather than terminating this person from immigration, you better send him. Right.
Interesting. Shanika, will bring you in on this. I mean, we have, in many instances, a lot of inhibitors within the public service and within government that prevents us from moving forward. How does a government coming in now deal with institutionalized, I call it slackness, foolishness? That you just mentioned that you're using a document or general orders as a crutch to be able to do foolishness, or in some cases not do anything. I mean, because you have people throughout the service who get away with doing absolutely nothing. And that's institutionalized. I mean, how do we begin to even address that, or how does government even begin to address that when these people are voters?
Exactly, because I was going to begin by saying I don't know how ambitious the minister administration wants to be or be seen to be. They have to, we all admit that they have to do something. Things must change in the public service. It is bloated. There are people who are not pulling their weight, people who are sitting around. Someone made a joke to me just this morning and say, man, you know, you got from the security guard to whomever the undersecretary or whomever it is, all they're doing is clocking in. And then they you know, for example, ma'am, you could go here, go there. You have a whole person on the public service just to do that, and have them go run after somebody or institute some security measure. They can't even do that. They cannot. And so the thing is, how does a government do it? A government has to be very strict, firm, and very swift.
Politically unpopular.
Very swift to going and doing it and getting it
Our
done.
industrial agreement between the government and the union speaks to minor and major breaches. So you could be terminated for a major breach. And we have those things listed, which have to follow the protocol. What happens is, for the most part, people believe that civil service are lazy and they sit down and don't have anything to do. I'll give you an example. There are sufficient securities in the public service to mind the various agencies of the government. There's instances where I hear they have security officers hired to watch a police station. Too many.
Say what?
security office being hired, security firm. See, if my buddy
firm is
has
watching a
police station.
So what the police do it?
So if my buddy got a security firm and he needs to work, this is how the firm administration operates. If my buddy needs
a security firm to watch a police station.
So if my buddy needs...
Watch it do what?
If my buddy needed some funds and he's doing a little bad in his security firm, I got to find work for him. So I said, you know what? Hire a security firm to go down there. Hire a security firm to go here. So many of the government agencies have... You have the security firm, a private security firm, and in addition to the public service securities working in the same institution. Who takes responsibility when something goes wrong?
So the government needs to be in a position to make the hard decisions.
Yes.
And I think for the most part, they may be doing it. And make those decisions now.
Yes.
And the politics is over. The election is over. We need to do what is good for the country and for the Bahamian people and for those who have a right to live here. So if it comes down to doing very unpopular things, which they will have to do, they must do it, and they must do it now. Don't worry about the next election. Worry about the next generation of this country.
I was about to say, if there are some things the government needs to do now that are going to ruffle some feathers and upset some people, I mean, we were having a great discussion about gaming as a mother before we came on the air. It's just now not the period to, what I call it,
right now, make all their hard decisions right now, so that within the next 3 years, people will see the benefits, or the results of them making these hard decisions.
They've been given a mandate to do it.
Are people prepared, though, for these tough decisions? No, we all want change, but we don't want to go through the process.
We are never prepared for it. As we are not prepared for change as a country as a whole. We've seen that in this last election. They're not prepared. They're not.
What do you mean they're not prepared?
They're not prepared.
They voted out the whole government.
Yeah, but they voted in an old party, another party that had an opportunity to be there, right? So they're not prepared. The Bahamian people are not really prepared for change. In certain circumstances, when you are in a position to make it, though, you must do it in order for us to advance.
So,
this government has an opportunity to have change done in this country, whether it's popular or not.
So let me ask you. And I think the people are ready. I think the people are at a place.
I'll give an example.
Based on everything that has taken place, based on all the revelations, I think the Bahamian public is at a place where they're saying, make the hard decisions. Go make them.
I'll give an example. And let's get serious here. Let's ensure that we are able to hang these criminals, these murderers. Let's ensure that you commit murder, your neck is popped. Period. Let's make sure that happens. I know Minister spoke about that before. I know Marvin Dame spoke about it. Let's make the decision so that we can put the laws in place so the Privy Council can't have a thing to say about it. Let's make it happen.
So
it's things like that.
Good point.
It's things like that.
We are at the point. I know you're eager to get on it. And thank you so much for, we call it the business, segueing into our next one. Talk about crime, but we're going to do it right after this break. We're midway in our show. Stay with us. The first 100, the assessment continues on the record right after this.
Catch the sizzling hot back-to-school specials at Carey's Fabric and Department Store on Mackey Street. Uniform fabrics for all schools. Ready-made uniforms, best quality, lowest prices. Selected jumpers, 30% off. Carey's has all your school supplies, including the popular JanSport backpacks. Get up to 20% off backpacks and lunch bags as low as $7.95. Carey's Fabric and Department Store, your complete back-to-school headquarters.
Ring, ring, goes the bell. I'm free to live my life, yeah. Free to be me, yeah. The way I wanna be. Doing the things that I wanna do.
Yes, I'm living my life. Hey, BAF for life. Yes, I'm living my life. Hey, BAF for life.
For life, BAF has got you covered.
No one does summer like we do. It's just a way of life. Light it up.
time is now. We own summer. We are alive.
Welcome back to the second half of tonight's show. Our topic, First 100, the assessment. We continue our discussion with our guests tonight, John Pinder, Brian McCartney, Shanique Miller. As we went into the break, we really were moving into this discussion on crime. This week, I thought, was such a poignant point for us in this whole issue of crime. An 8-month-old baby is murdered in a hail of gunfire. Both you gentlemen have suffered personal losses as a result of the crime situation in our country, an untenable situation that still seems to be spiraling out of control. There's always a back and forth about who's responsible and where it comes from. Brian, you brought up a very good point. If capital punishment is on the books and is the law of the land, what is the problem with carrying out the law of the land? If we're not going to do it, change it.
Yeah. And we can do it. I mean, you know, people talk about the Privy Council having the last say. Yes, they do. We just need to change our laws so that they must comply with our laws. There are other places around the world where the Privy Council is the final court of appeal, where they do have capital punishment and they have to carry it out. We know that the Privy Council is not interested in carrying out capital punishment. It is our law, though.
They live in London. They live in the Bahamas.
That's right, and they don't know what's going on here. And we must do our part now, and the government must look at this, look at our laws to ensure that the Privy Council cannot wiggle out of it.
Do you think the government lacks the will to do it?
I hope this government doesn't lack the will. I know that the present Prime Minister has indicated that he is for capital punishment.
But others have said that.
Yes, and the Minister of National Security says he's for it. So let's get it done. Let's make it happen. We have too many persons going out there committing murder, coming out on bail, committing murder again, and really have us living paralyzed by fear in this country. I think the criminal-minded persons must realize that this government is serious. They must feel that this government is serious. And there must be some examples made out of these persons going around, believe that they could take the lives of other persons and still sit up in the prison, eat our food, get free medical and dental care, and so on and so forth. Those guys who commit murder in this country, let's go see Jesus.
Yeah, see, think about
Shanique Miller, I come to you, John. Shanique, Marvin Dames, a former police officer, well-decorated, well-respected, a lot of high hopes for him as the Minister of National Security. Where is he effective? Is he inspiring confidence in the people? Do you think he's going to do what needs to be done?
I'll tell you where the honeymoon period has run out on Marvin Dames. Because of all the things you just said. A highly decorated police officer, the second in command, a policeman's policeman. And the fact is, people are saying, okay, we know what you are good for, Dames. You're in the chair now. Do something. People are also very turned off with the fact that what's going on with the police force? Who is the commissioner and who isn't?
Well, that was one of my questions. Where is the commissioner who is the commissioner?
Where in the world is the commissioner? You know, Matt, where in the world is Matt Lauer? Where in the world is Ellison Greenslade? And so the thing about it is, Marvin Dames, people are getting very, very tired of seeing Marvin Dames talking. They feel as though, dude, you are the lawmaker here. What's going on? Let the policeman speak.
He came up through the ranks of the police officer. And I know Marvin to be a very effective police officer.
Very effective police officer.
The first cabinet have actually 3 senior police officers sitting in the cabinet. Because Ellsworth was a police officer. Minister Frankie Campbell was a police officer. And Marvin Dames.
Four
police officers. Not all high-ranking police officers.
People have high hopes for Marvin Dames, but they have higher hopes for getting this crime situation under control. Marvin Dames, start acting.
What will it take? Because, to be quite honest, I thought for a period, things may have quieted down and it looks like, things have settled. And then, all hell just broke loose over the past few weeks, and I thought, well, this is not going well at all.
See, the guys on the street will tell you, well, do 10 years for you. But nobody said, well, I'll get hanged for you. They're so bad. Why when you shoot me or kill me? Why don't you stay on the scene and please come to me? I do it. I bad. So they love freedom, so they're all running for freedom. And then they believe that they have the country held hostage because you ain't man enough to show up in court and say, I saw John shot Brian. And so they get everybody in fear. They get a thing, but if you snitch on me, I'll kill you.
That's right.
And so everybody's afraid to give police information because they don't want to be called a snitcher. You see? So the gangs have organized themselves in such a way that if you do something to me and you live in Fox Hill, I get one of my boys who live downtown, some other part of Nassau, to come and deal with that. So while they focus on the person in Fox Hill,
you look at it, there really is no fear. There's no respect for the law. There's no fear of
because they don't mind going
to
Fox Hill, getting 3 meals a day. Still can see the girlfriend comes and visit them.
Yeah, because it's
once a week, once a month.
There's a whole jockeying group of people to be waiting outside to get
and they have lots of fun up there in Fox Hill. And something has to be wrong in Fox Hill. You need to do a show on this. Why have all these prison officers been charged before the courts for trying to get marijuana or drugs into the prison system? We need to do a show on that. Something got to be wrong.
Supply and demand.
Something got to be wrong. So that means the guys are allowed to smoke marijuana in prison. So they ain't getting no punishment. They're still smoking at the joint in prison, still having fun. They kill you. They kill your family member. They go up there for 2 years on waiting trial, and after that, you got to let them out. And then vigilante kicks in. But we don't need to run a country like that. I agree with Brian. Hangings on the books. The hell with what the Privy Council has to say, because they don't live in the Bahamas. They don't know what they're going through. Do what you got to do. The minute you start to pop some necks around this place, you see a big change. At least have one gone, who ain't gonna kill 3 or 4? Because some fellas will tell you, better than sleep 5. They be bragging, better than sleep 5.
Yeah.
I cut that movie for you. They said, all kind of fools to be running on me.
Consequences. Persons must realize that. And you know what? It's not only for murder, you know. It's from the small infractions that we need. We need law and order in this country, something we don't have. Look how dirty the country is. Look how dirty Nassau is in particular. We need to start with the small infractions. When you litter, there must be severe consequences for that. When you park in a no parking zone, there must be severe consequences. We need to start with the small stuff. We need to sweat the small stuff. I've been saying this for years, and people will start to understand that there are consequences for your actions.
Do you think the commissioner erred in his decision to reinstate the 2 officers with the video that was circulating on social media with them drinking in the car and carrying on? Do you think that sent the wrong message? They were reinstated but demoted.
You asking me that?
I ask anyone who answers.
As a trade union,
let's have the trade union.
My job is to try to protect person's job, right?
Right.
Depending on what happened in the past. And let me tell you why you had to do that. There are guys that committed more serious offense than that.
So that makes it okay because somebody committed a more serious
But that would be the argument the police staff association chairman would probably put to the commissioner or a trade union.
Do we now have a greater problem because you have unions that may be protecting people who are doing these
Not necessarily protecting person. Again, I tell you, a guy will come here and shoot us, one of us. Everybody got him on camera, sees him. He still goes to court and pleads not guilty. Because they're going to find out why he did that. Or he did it because last night John slapped his girlfriend or John slapped him. So they want to build a case. So my thing is, I think it was totally wrong for those guys that did what they have done. They might as well get terminated because if you can tell an officer now who was a constable, you know more promotion for you. The one who was a corporal going back to being incumbent, they will be 25 years. They're frustrated.
They will retire off.
Frustrated, not being able to get a promotion.
They would have been fired.
Might as well terminate them.
They ought to have been fired. What that was... how can I describe that? I mean, they are police officers. What they did was something that was totally unacceptable, and to reinstate them, put them back on the force, I thought was the wrong move.
Yeah, they ought to be fired. This because they have these campaigns where the guys go drink all day and take it out of their salary. So they breed this type of
exactly.
That
doesn't make
right.
I have a slightly different opinion, and that is, I'm happy that they were punished and now go and do better. I think their ways will be reformed if they need help, because we know plenty of people in the public service got issues from narcotics, alcohol, all the stuff. So go and get them the help if they need it. But I'm happy that they have an opportunity to go and have a do-over. I don't think they should have been fired.
So there are two schools of thought there. Let's move forward. The state of quasi-government agencies is very important and been in the news quite a bit these past few weeks. In particular, BPL, Pamela Hill, has been removed as the CEO amidst an investigation where millions of dollars have gone missing. A new CEO says his job is to keep the lights on. Based on these things, Minister responsible has come out and spoken to this as well. But let's talk a little bit about sort of these quasi-government agencies, starting with BPL. Do you think that this relationship between, I think it's Power Secure running BPL and the government is coming to an end? I've read some things that have sort of caused me to raise an eyebrow. Do you think, one, that was a good decision to bring in this management company under the last administration, and do you suspect that that may be unraveling?
We still don't know what the situation is. I am told that this government, this administration will let us know what the deal is with BPL, but we don't know what the agreement was. So to answer that is a bit difficult, but we can see that over the last, two and a half years, that the management company did nothing to improve our electricity service, did nothing to improve the reduction of our electricity bills. I would pray and I would hope that this government will ensure that there is reform in the electricity sector. I would pray and hope that they would look at the dump issue that we have and do not wait too long and just talk, but to act on it before those fires start burning again.
Have you been satisfied with any of the utterings of the minister responsible for the environment, particularly as it has to do with the dump?
No, quite frankly, no. Don't tell me that you would have reviewed this. You would have marched on it. You would have. You're
an environmentalist.
You would have gone through this a long time ago. At the end of the day, that government ought to have persons in there dealing with it now. When I was in government years ago, there were a number of reports from around the world coming in
and money set aside to deal with
it. Not only that, but there were companies that were willing to deal with this dump issue without costing the Bahamian people 1 cent. Way back from 2007, when I was there. This isn't rocket science. Now they're sending out tenders again and so on and so forth. Really, and quite honestly, there should have been people in place ready to go to deal with this. We can't.
What is Ramon Fourier doing? That's just the big question in the room right now. Nothing. He's not impressive. He appears, this man is an environmentalist, is he not?
Yes.
And so the thing about it is, you've been watching this, lobbying for it, protesting, studying it, having your plans and talking about ready to hit the ground running because you are the expert here. Yet you've done nothing. You appear to have no plan. You appear to be ineffective. So he needs to get a handle on it.
I've actually even seen some environmentalists.
Yeah, but they had, you know, because I gave the first Christian administration an opportunity to review a whole plan I bought out of Bermuda as relates to their garbage disposal site. They have a 7-story structure where they teach people how to sort the garbage, they burn the garbage, they provide 30% or 35% of the energy for the citizens there. They take the ashes, they make sidewalks. Just look at a model, man. Yeah. You know, just look at a model that you think will best suit your country. I thought that was a good model for the Bahamas, but nobody did nothing. But let me just go back to the BPL thing you spoke about. Yeah, when Hubert Ingram made a decision as the Prime Minister to sell BTC, all right? And we challenged him on some things. He said, Bahamians not applied and all that. And I asked the Prime Minister, well, why are you yakking this way? You know what he said? He wanted to align BTC with a company that can keep us on the cutting edge of technology. Okay, we said that was a failure. Good. It wasn't much improvement. But listen to me. I believe we have Bahamians quite qualified who would have been able to run BEC. The problem with BEC is we refused to change the bunker fuel thing. Yeah. We refused to change the old way of providing energy and going to something new. Refused to the Bahamians can manage BEC, man, or BLP, whether the Bahamas Power and Light. Bahamians can manage that.
It's just
we don't need to hire nobody $1 million to tell us what to do.
We bring these people in to do the work.
It's vexing to hear all these names, BPL, Power Secure, whatever, L. And twice last night, I was found with a piece of envelope. Right. Because the current was off. Yeah. What?
Yes.
Folks, I don't care what you bring, unless we get rid of the energy source that we have now with these old generation stuff and bring in new way of doing it. I don't know why the country's punishing Bahamians and not allowing us to put solar energies on.
Punishing is a good word. Folks, we will be right back. We've got to take a break. Stay with us. On the Record continues right after this.
Upgrade Upgrade your home today with hurricane-resistant doors and windows from Ultimate Door and Window, one of the top manufacturers in the country. We also specialize in hurricane shutters, storefronts, frameless shower doors, glass, and mirrors. We're the authorized dealers of Phantom Screens in the Bahamas. UDW has all your needs for this hurricane season. So be prepared and check them out today on Shirley Street, behind the Auto Mall, or call them now at 356-4945.
I'm free to live my life, yeah. Free to be me, yeah. The way I wanna be. Doing the things that I wanna do.
Yes, I'm living my life. Hey, BAF for life. Yes, I'm living my life. Hey, BAF for life.
For life, BAF has got you covered.
Need added moisture on your baby's scalp and skin? Johnson's Baby Oil Gel locks in up to 10 times more moisture than any ordinary lotion. If you're a mommy-to-be, purchase any Johnson & Johnson product and have your baby shower sponsored by Johnson's. $1,500 in gifts and prizes.
Johnson & Johnson products distributed by Lowe's Wholesale Drug Agencies Limited.
We are back. This is the final segment of this episode. We are looking at the first 100, the assessment. As we went into the break, Shanique, you were very hard on the Minister for the Environment. Said he's been absent. One of the things that this Prime Minister has done, Prime Minister Minister said, I'm not taking any portfolio. I'm going to, I guess, serve as a CEO or president where I sort of sit and oversee everything. In an instance where a minister is not performing, and whether it be that the assessment is made, or people are complaining, or there is even the perception. How hard is it, do you think, for a Prime Minister Hubert Minnis to make a decision, fire, move, etc., a minister early on, even early on in the administration and in the life of the administration? How hard is that going to be for him?
I think what the Prime Minister did in terms of not having a portfolio was a good thing.
Okay.
I thought that was masterful. It gives him an opportunity as a CEO, I mean, to oversee. But
again, to your point, as a business.
Yeah, as a business. Oh, absolutely. And I thought it was an excellent thing. A couple other things I thought the Prime Minister did was pretty good, like a press secretary as well was excellent. But I don't think Dr. Minnis will have any qualms with firing persons who've not performed. Of course, you must give them an opportunity. But I think he's the kind of person who will, and I think he said it, if you don't perform, if you do fool, you're going to go. And,
most jobs give you 12 months probationary period. I give them 12 months. If you don't perform after 12 months, you obviously don't fit the bill. You don't know what you're doing. I have to either rotate you or just move you.
But rotating makes sense. If you're not performing in one ministry, you're going to move into another non-performing job.
No, not necessarily. Sometimes persons are, but not in the case of the Minister of Environment, because he ought to be able to make an impact on the environment of this country, because he has that kind of smarts. That's where his degree is and all of that. But sometimes you place a guy in a position where he may not be, like Renwick Wells, even though he's doing something there. Most persons thought he'd been more a sports person than an agriculture person. Okay? So you know what? Maybe I should have put Renwick in agriculture. Maybe I should have placed him in sports, something like that. But a guy who is fit, the Marvin Daines is a police officer, and he ought to be able to know,
a perfect fit.
Come up with fighting crime initiatives. See? And so I think that was a good fit.
Yeah, I don't think the Prime Minister will have a hard time. In fact, he had better not have a hard time, because when he was sworn in, his first statement said, and on the campaign trail as well, but certainly officially in his capacity as Prime Minister, I will hold each of you accountable. And if you don't perform or there's something untoward, you will be gone.
Speaking of untoward, I mean, there's been a lot said, we've explored on this show and other shows, the situation where you've had three former sitting members of government, cabinet ministers who have been charged. And that has caused, in some instances, some divisiveness within the country. You have some people saying that you should not treat a former cabinet minister or former member of government like this, and they should be held to a different standard or treated differently. I want you to jump in on this, particularly, Brian. I know you are a lawyer by profession, and you know what it is that criminals face when they come to, or people accused face when they come to court.
No one is above the law. No one. The Prime Minister is not above the law. The Governor General is not above the law. If the evidence now is there for prosecution, no matter who you ought to let justice take its course. So no one is above the law. There was one matter that was a bit suspect that went to court and certain things weren't in place and
had to come back.
And had come back. That is suspect. That is curious. But to answer your question, whether you're a politician, priest, bishop, judge, you're not above the law. And if the evidence is there, you ought to be.
There's even been a public discourse between members of the clergy and a former Chief Justice, a lot of back and forth. Do you think do you think it's proper for that kind of commentary to be in the public space at this point?
We need what is going on.
Okay.
This when I say that, we need persons who is, or where evidence found of corruption and bribery. We need, and we talk about making examples and there being consequences. We need for this type of thing to happen. Period. We have a lawless society. We've had a lawless society for years. So this
one of the things I want to throw out there, and some people have said it to me, Jerome, if a minister of somebody is convicted, within government of misappropriation, etc., do they go to jail or should they pay the monies back? What do you think should happen?
But it should be both, because you took the funds or you abused the funds. If you can't get the funds back, or if you're not in a position to confiscate some assets, going to jail doesn't really, all it does is says that, you can get your treatment, you're taken away on society, but the money's still going. So I believe there should be a balance. I believe if persons know if I steal this money, even if I invest this money and I triple the value of it, and I get caught, they can be taken away from me. I believe they would certainly think twice before they put their hands in the cookie jar.
Yeah, I don't think jail is the answer, certainly, and I'm not trying to hold an elected official above anybody else, but go after the assets. Go after what it is that they just recently acquired. Confiscate those, just to kind of put that money back into the public purse. I mean, after all, that's what you want.
I anticipate there's some legislation that's going to be proposed, hopefully, that will address that issue in terms of going after assets for corrupt officials.
Now, during this period of 100 days and this transition for the government, on the other side, the PLP, the opposition now, is transitioning themselves. They would have had to have elected a new leader following the election and the loss of the seat by then Prime Minister and party leader, the Honorable Perry Christie. They are now getting set to go into a convention in October where there will be a leadership race, a deputy race, a chairmanship race, other party offices. Is the PLP prepared for what's going to come? Are they prepared to do what is necessary, you think, in that convention to begin to regain the confidence and trust of the Bahamian people?
Well, let me say, I know it's going to be a hard sell for the PLP because of the devastation as relates to the defeat to the polls last election. I know they have one or two younger persons that are able to probably cause the party to still present itself as an option. But the way the modus operandi operates in these major parties, I don't know if I want to say Dean is one of those, that there's still a lot of influence over these stalwart council members.
Yeah, the stalwart councilors choose the leader.
And if the stalwart council member ain't comfortable with a young Chester Cooper, he will never ever rise to the point of being a leader.
Say, you'll never see the city with smoke.
You see? And so it all depends on what the former Prime Minister does. Because you remember when Lyndon Pillen was the leader of the PLP, and they wanted Bernard Norris versus Perry Christie. And so the whole party was prepared to make Bernard Norris the leader. And Pillen came and said, listen, Perry's the man. That was over. So I don't know if Perry Christie now has that kind of influence.
Should he stay out of it?
He should stay out of it.
He should stay out of it.
He should stay out of it. He had his time. He should bow gracefully and stay out of it. But I know that ain't happening. Because everybody still want to have control. They want to be in retirement but still be able to call and say, listen, I want this to happen. I want that to happen. And so I don't know if A, B, and C. is going to be G, O, and P. But I mean, I hear A, B, and C looking good.
So who's A, B, and C?
Who's A, B, and C?
I hear A, B, and C is Brave, well, Alfred, Brave, and Chester.
So you have Brave Davis for leader. You're having Alfred Sayers for chairman, and
Chester Cooper.
So that they're running on a ticket.
I mean, that's the three.
And so who makes up Glennis?
Okay.
Glennis is team.
Glennis, Obi, and Picewell.
Picewell.
That's what I mean.
That's what you heard. Okay.
Little Brady sat on my doorstep and said that to me.
I always think opposition politics is so very, very exciting.
But it's a good combination to keep the party going.
I would tell you one thing, though. They do have an opportunity to get themselves together, if it's done right, to become a viable.
When you say if, what's that?
If they get it right, I mean, with the right persons at the helm, with the policies that they can put out, with the being a watchdog for the people as the opposition, and preparing themselves for the next election. You cannot never ever underestimate. The PLP has been in this position before, you know. Not as bad. But not as bad.
Following the 97 election.
They've been in this position before. And so you don't underestimate. You don't know what's going to happen within the next 5 years. We don't know how this government is going to
No, they never only had 4 seats. They always had
they never had 4, but they've been down to...
Not as bad, but they have been defeated.
Very small. Very small.
Yeah, but your problem is you got a doctor now who's the leader of the FNM and who's the prime minister. And these doctors know how to fix things.
well, let's hope that the doctor fixes things. I hope it happens.
Let me ask you this. There have been calls from outside, even within the party. Chester Cooper himself has come out and said the PLP needs to apologize. They need to say sorry to the people for some things that have happened. There have been some pushback when others have said, no, we don't think we need to apologize. And the FNM would have deceived the people into this victory and told lies and would have won the race. Is that necessary?
They probably would have, but Bradley Roberts say no. Bradley said, we don't need to apologize. What do you say?
Chester Rob. I'm going to say what Bradley Rob said the other day. Well, what the devil is this? The bottom line is... No, I think Chester Cooper is correct. I mean, if they really want to start... Look, the PLP messed up. Plain and simple. They messed up. There were so many opportunities to get this country back on track, and they didn't do it. I hope that this new government will learn from their mistakes and get this country back on track. But the PLP messed up. What Chester was saying, look, in order for us to really start over now and get a clean fresh, look, we need to apologize. We need to say we're sorry. Look, we don't condone what certain things that happen, but we need to move forward. And they could do it. They have brilliant persons within the PLP, like they have in the FNM and the DNA. So they could use those persons to build the party, become a very viable opposition, and certainly contend very seriously. Because the PLP, believe it or not, they still have their base.
But if the country is going to continue to believe that there's a two-party system, you should join the PLP.
I think you should take over my show.
Yes.
That's a different show now.
He represents that new voice of PLP that Bahamians are desiring to see coming from an organization that is very kind of just like at a stalemate, something that's just been, back when. So he represents that fresh air, the new thought. And so perhaps an apology, or at least to appear apologetic, should have been done. But of course, the stance was, apologize for what? We ain't do nothing. So the people are still turned off. Now, it'll be interesting to see what comes out of this, the convention, and who emerges leader. Is Glennis going to play up her woman card? Is it going to get nasty like it did in the FNM? That remains to be seen. I don't see it happening because she knows how to be a party person.
Yeah, but Glennis was one of those persons who I believe said that Fred Richard couldn't run for leader because he didn't have a wife. Does she have a husband?
No, that's different. That's different.
Oh, he's deceased?
Yeah, she was married. What are you saying?
So she needs to get married again.
Before a $20 million question. Ron, I couldn't bring you on this show. The journalist and me would not allow this to happen.
I know it's coming. I know the question.
What is the future?
Are you joining the
What is the future now of the DNA, and what is your future as leader of that party and organization? People are very curious as to what will happen with the DNA going forward.
Absolutely. Well, the DNA continues as a party. There is a question as to where we go, the question as to leadership and what have you. The party will have to make a decision as to the leadership of the party. That will happen in very short order. Look, I've been the leader of the party since its inception. I've taken it through 2 elections, not successful. I won't say it's been a failure because I think the party has changed dynamics of politics in the country. No ifs, ands, or buts about that. It's done some historical things as well, politically. But, you know, for me personally, I got the memo.
You're not prepared to
I got the memo from the Bahamian people. I got it twice. So
are you prepared
I've alluded within the party as to there being a new leader, another person taking the helms and moving forward. The party makes that decision, but they ought to take into consideration everything, the fact, and you know.
Is there a future for Brian McCartney in politics? Now, if you say, okay, I got the memo on the DNA from the Bahamian people, what about Brian? You've been in politics before. You served as a minister, immigration. You know.
I am taking one day at a time now, one step at a time. I'm just assessing. For me, the elections are over, the colors are off. And I really want this country and the Bahamian people to succeed. And therefore, we have a new government, and I hope that this government succeeds. I mean,
you have a good relationship with Dr. Minnis?
We cannot afford for this government to fail.
Do you have a good relationship with Dr. Minnis?
I do.
I believe that the FNM sent for you, but ain't supposed to be sent for you.
No,
good question. Thank you, John.
I'm taking a step back and just letting those who are there do what they have to do in the political arena.
Good answer. Good answer. Spoken like a true politician. you certainly have answered the calling. According to my producer, I think we're out of time. Folks, I thank you so much for this very lively discussion tonight. Sometimes I think people tune in just to hear us argue.
I would have liked to mention something about the natural resources as a new source of revenue for the country. Well, but I hope that we can have another show.
Yes, listen, if you do well as a guest, I always bring you back on. Thank you very much.
I would have thought of that.
Yes. Well, thank you very much. There's always lots to talk about, and I appreciate you providing the insight tonight. Very continued success to you, John. I think you're bowing out as your position as head of the union. So we wish you all the best, Brian. We'll be watching you eagerly to see what happens to you. John is agitating for another job for you. We'll see how that goes. Yeah, and Shanika,
he's a good man on the hill.
You support me?
All right. And Shanika, of course, continue to do well, keeping the Bahamian people informed every day in what's going on. So thank you very much for a great discussion tonight. I'm sure the audience has enjoyed it. All right. So, folks, we thoroughly hope that you have enjoyed tonight's show. Special thanks to my guests, Brian McCartney, John Pinder, Shanique Miller, my producer, technical staff, and of course you, the audience, for watching week after week. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time. Same place, same time, right here on the record. Good night.